Spring football is set to get underway in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. We got some questions that we need answers to that I hope we get by the end of these 15 practices. Also got some things that we need to preview heading into spring. I don't think it's a secret. The quarterback position is under a microscope, to put it lightly. Bryce Young gone to the NFL, new OC and Tommy Rees coming from Notre Dame. So what does this quarterback derby look like? You got Ty Simpson, you got Jalen Milroe, who are perceived to be the front runners for the position. But with the new OC, it's hard to at least not wonder just a little bit if the freshman Eli Holstein, who's been on campus now since bowl practice, has that door cracked open just a little bit for him. Because whoever had the edge from an experience standpoint with the former system, that edge is negated quite a bit more. And Eli Holstein really physically developed, one of the things that Charles Power liked about him coming out of high school. So we'll see how that plays out. But what is the temperature of the quarterback race? You would like to have an answer sooner rather than later. You'd like to have either Jalen Milroe or Ty Simpson or Eli Holstein take that job by the throat during spring practice, because that just means, hey, he's your alpha personality. He's going to lead the room. He's far and away the best player, and he's not making it a big decision you have to make as a staff. Like, we can all kind of see who our number one guy is. And those are things that I think you get a temperature for, a feel for during practice, as opposed to an absolute, yes, this is our guy, because obviously you want to still maintain depth as long as you can. But here's what I would say. Around this quarterback battle, there are two variables that I'm watching very closely to see who ends up being the signal caller. And how much we actually get to see this in the spring game, we'll see. How you'll really keep a pulse on this is over at Bama Insider, the Alabama On 3 site. They do a phenomenal job over there tracking this up to the minute. So get a membership there, lock it in over there. First thing I want to make sure we're tracking. If you're the quarterback for Alabama, you cannot limit what we want to do offensively. And what I mean by that is we have so many freaks on this team at the skill position. Ja'Cory Brooks has got to get his. Isaiah Bond has got to get his. C.J. Dupree, who we'll talk about in a second, he's got to get his. You can't limit what we want to do offensively. And I'm really looking at Jalen Milroe for this, because we saw him have one start against A&M, threw for like 111 yards. Fairly efficient, but he didn't give you a bunch of confidence for what he's going to do downfield. In Jalen Milroe, he could develop during spring, and that could just be, hey, we only got a sneak peek of what he could do in that system a season ago, and new OC makes all the difference. Like, that could be the case. But if Jalen Milroe or Ty Simpson or Eli Holstein holds us back from a vertical game standpoint or getting the ball to our playmakers, you can't play. We recruit too well at Alabama. We have too many guys with 4 and 5 stars next to their name for us to sacrifice that because we have a quarterback who is a really good runner of the football. Again, I'm not just limiting this to Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe is probably the best runner of the football, you would imagine, but Ty Simpson, he's a dual threat as well. He's a top 3 quarterback in his class coming out of high school as well, so he can do some things throwing the football, but also he's a dual threat out of high school. So that has to be a reality for you if you're playing quarterback at Alabama. My second thought on this, you cannot miss when we got an open shot. More thoughts on that. But if you haven't yet subscribed to the On3 YouTube channel, we got content for you every single day talking college football. Us right here on the Hard Count, we're live twice a week, but we got content, like I just mentioned, every single day. So lock it in. Also, follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at JD Pakel. Just a great way for us to hear from you and do more of what you want to see. All right? So appreciate you in advance for that. Like I was saying, whoever plays quarterback for Alabama, you cannot miss when we have a winner dialed up. Now, what do I mean by that? Tommy Rees and this offense, it's no secret, he was brought here to bring Alabama back to playing some bully ball. And you know what I mean by that. I'm talking 2 tight ends. I'm talking running the ball downhill. I'm talking our big human beings moving your human beings against their will, because that's just our edge at Alabama. And we recruit well enough to do that, so that's how we're going to get down. What happens when you punch somebody in the mouth over and over and over again on the line of scrimmage? You start to try to protect yourself as a defense by committing more resources. Linebackers are only content to get run over at 3 to 4 yards deep every so often. There's a matter of time that's going to go into place before you start to trigger on those run plays a little bit quicker. You trigger quickly as a safety. Maybe you were at 8 yards before, you're moving up to 6 yards because you've seen inside zone hit 3 or 4 times, and you're just tired of getting late to the football. So when that happens, guess what? Safety creeps up, linebackers creep up, more green grass behind you. What does that mean? Real estate. I already told you got some guys that can go. Isaiah Bond, I think, is going to be an absolute dog for you this year. Kobe Prentice, absolute dog. Ja'Cory Brooks, like, these guys are going to be vertical threats for you. And when you have the field to throw to, you can't miss. Okay, you can't miss. Those are home run plays. Those are game-changing plays. So kind of what I just said a second ago, you can't limit what we want to do from an explosive play standpoint. And that was the frustration for a lot of Alabama fans last year. We're not dialing it up enough. We're not connecting enough on those deep throws. I don't pin that on Bryce Young. I think that's a whole other conversation for a different video. But the point stands. When there is money on the table, you rake all of it into your arms and you take 6 points and you go to the next series. Okay, that's just how you got to get down to Alabama if you're going to be the starting quarterback. So that's the first thing we got to watch. Also, kind of going hand in hand with that, how are they utilizing the tight end position? Transfer they got from the University of Maryland, C.J. Dupree, is going to be a guy for you. Okay, they comp him to Michael Mayer just a little bit from what Tommy Rees had at Notre Dame. Big boy, 6'3", 6'4", I believe, right around 255 or so pounds, give or take. Bottom line, he's a big dude. And he needs to see the football to a degree. He's also going to help you a lot in the run game. But the reason why we bring up the tight end position is because last year at Alabama, you ran a lot of one tight end sets, which is fine. You got, like I said, playmakers got to see the ball. You got to play in space. You got Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, I understand all that. It will look different this year because you will have two tight ends on the field more often than not, if we're basing it off what Tommy Rees did a season ago at Notre Dame. 61% of the time, you were in 12 personnel, or excuse me, you were in a two tight end set. Could be 22, could be 12. That's just football language for you had two tight ends on the field in those packages. 22, two running backs, two tight ends. 12, one running back, two tight ends. You with me? The reason why this is going to be interesting to watch, it's a part of what Bama wants to do going to bully ball, running the football. Because think about it. You have two tight ends. Those are two more big human beings you add to your offensive line. You have 7 dudes that are above average height, size, weight. Like, they're going to help you move the line of scrimmage. So when that happens, the defense has to adjust personnel-wise. To put it simply, if I have big human beings, more big human beings on my offensive formation than you can account for defensively, we got problems. So you might see defenses add a heavier safety onto the field. You might see them play with a bigger linebacker, whatever it ends up being. They're trying to match the size that Bama's putting out on the field. So what does that look like during spring? And then how are they doing in the vertical pass game there as well? Because it's only flexible if you have the personnel to throw out of it. Because if we just add another tight end on the field and we got two tight ends all the time, that's great. We can run the football, but over time, if all we're able to do out of that is run the football, then defenses are going to catch up pretty quickly. You hear what I'm saying? So can you be multiple out of that two tight end set? Because they're going to try to run that a lot. I promise you. That will be a point of emphasis for them during spring football. So what's the intel during spring practice with Bama Insider? How does Robbie Oots look? Is Robbie Oots kind of taking that next step? Is he going to be a guy that can do both pass catching and run blocking for us? Is C.J. Dupree, is he as advertised? Is he able to be out in space and us throw him the ball on a corner route? How flexible are they during spring practice? Something to keep an eye on. Again, I don't think we get an absolute on this answer, but I think it's something we take a temperature of, sort of read the tea leaves a little bit on Bama Insider and see what's going on there as we get further and further into the spring. Now, the last thing we got to take a look at, Kevin Steele's the new DC. So you have a new OC and you have a new DC, and Kevin Steele runs a similar defense in style to what you saw last year in Pete Golding, kind of that 4-2-5, 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, 5 DBs, speed on the field. Yes, all that. We're tracking. But the reason that I'm curious to see how this defense looks in the spring is because I believe Kevin Steele is going to just kind of simplify everything across the board. Like, I think it'll be less window dressing and less, let's try and confuse the offense, and be more a little bit like, hey, we got some of the best personnel in college football. We're Bama for a reason. we're not going to try and saddle a wild horse, man. You let that wild horse run. Same thing with this defense. I believe it'll be a lot of integrity in the secondary, meaning we're going to keep everything in front of us. Maybe we'll send a blitz here and there. We'll rally up to the football, but we're not going to try and get too cute on the back end. We're going to let our dogs eat. Then underneath, same thing. Play instinctual, play fast, play free. That's the thing I want us to really keep an eye on Bama Insider. What's the message board saying about, hey, defense playing fast? Defense is running sideline to sideline. Yeah, there's only so many live reps. I get that, but they're playing sideline to sideline. They're playing fast. There's quick processing. Quick processing means instincts. Instincts means a lot of good things are happening, more likely than not. So this defense under Kevin Steele, let's just keep an eye on how they progress, because I have a feeling it will be much improved. The ingredients were never the problem on the defensive season ago. Was never the problem. The response, the scheme, I believe, is what held Bama back just ever so slightly last year. And when I say held back, let me be perfectly clear. Alabama last year was in no way, shape, or form a bad team, right? They were double-digit wins, win a New Year's Six Bowl. I mean, they did a lot of great things last year that teams in other conferences would give up an entire academic building for if they could achieve what Bama achieved last year, right? The thing for Bama is the standard is set so high. You and I both know it. Win the SEC, win national titles. Pretty simple. That is the order at Alabama. And last year in certain games, they just looked out of sorts against Tennessee. Heck, even against A&M at times. There was things that Alabama did last year against LSU, like they just looked like they were sort of discombobulated defensively. I don't think you'll see that this year under Kevin Steele on defense. So we'll keep an eye on the quarterback derby. Can you cash in? And can you allow us to have the entirety of the offensive skill at our fingertips? The tight end position. It's going to be a whole lot of 2 tight end sets. How does that look during spring? Are we able to throw out of that as much as we want to? Similar to how Georgia did. Similar to how Michigan's able to. Are we able to get all we want from the tight end spot? Defensively, play fast, play free, man. That's how it's going to be. This is the hard count. Lock it in every single day. We got content coming for you. We're live twice a week. Tomorrow, we are live at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. David Pollock. Yes, College Game Days, David Pollock. Joining the show. Talk some SEC ball. Talk about the Alabama Crimson Tide, the Georgia quarterback battle. Should be a really good time. Make sure you're locked in, okay? Nick Frank Lifting Heavy. This is your show. Follow me at JD Pakel on Instagram and on Twitter. But we're going to keep the party rolling, and we will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.